The epic mythical creature known as Slur Sagi. If you're a Blue Lock fan worth your salt, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Isagi is a young man from a beautiful home with two loving parents who love and support him. But for some unknown reason, when this dude walks onto the football field and all the chips are pushed to the center of this proverbial table, he code switches into the nastiest trash talker you will ever see, traumatizing opponents everywhere he goes and leaving bodies, tears, and disappointment in his wake. I love Slur Sagi. I will give proper context here though, that there are varying levels of Slur Sagi. Sure, you got your super extreme versions where he tells you to all but die in a ditch, but there are other moments that aren't as extreme but still very cool and worth highlighting. In this video, we're going to go through every single time Slur Sagi activated and analyze it for how special it was. So, if you can, watch the video in its entirety and like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy it. Let's start simple. Shut up, genius. I'm about to get to the good part. During the match between Team Z and Team V, Isagi was faced up against Nagi Seishiro, one of the most talented players in Blue Lock. After Nagi's initial onslaught onto the team and the subsequent response by Team Z, Nagi decided to man-mark Isagi, and when he saw how seriously Isagi was taking this match, when he saw how hard he was trying, his curiosity prompted him to ask, "Why are you trying so hard? What motivates you so much?" Isagi's answer to Nagi is to, and I'm quoting, "Shut up, genius. I'm about to get to the good part." This of course leads Isagi to the birth of his direct shot, which wins the match for his team. When this first happened in the manga, I didn't think very much of it because it was the first of its kind, but as you'll find as we go along, it quickly becomes a trend for Isagi. From there, during the second selection, Isagi was locked in a fierce match alongside Nagi and Barou against Reo, Shigiri, and Kunigami. During this match, Barou's kingly conviction proved to be very detrimental to their team setup, causing them to fall behind. Nagi implored Isagi to give up on Barou, but Isagi initially ignores Nagi and tries to convince Barou to play alongside them. However, with the game getting away from them and their chances slipping away, Isagi begins to analyze the situation as he always does. Nagi tries to talk to him when Isagi interrupts him and says, "I need you to shut up, genius. I'm about to get to the good part." This is a callback to the earlier point I referenced, where Isagi tells this exact phrase to Nagi, and Nagi remembers this, because he immediately turns around and says, "Okay, striker, I'll take that as we're going to win." Which of course they do. And this leads us into the next moment, one of my absolute favorites. After goading Barou into thinking he's going to receive a pass from Isagi, he combines with Nagi and devours Barou, scoring a goal for himself. After doing so, he turns to Barou and tells him to keep playing as he has. Barou is perplexed by this and asks what Isagi means. In response, Isagi says, "I'm saying don't get in our way, you loser." Now look, there are numerous versions of translations here. I remember the first one I read, the translations were using the word retard. Some have it as donkey and some have it as loser. Obviously, the first is the most derogatory, but whatever. Take your pick. They're all insults, and the context here is that ever since Isagi met Barou, Barou has constantly been calling him a loser. He adds it onto almost every statement he makes towards Isagi, so to see Isagi turn the tables on Barou, the self-proclaimed king, and call him a loser, and to also tell him to not get in his way, that's as badass as they come. And that's not all. After the match progressed and Shigiri scores, with Barou lying on the ground, Isagi says, "An ego that could stay buried in front of us could never become the best in the world." The match continues, and when the ball randomly drops to Barou, who is currently mentally shaken, he tries his hardest to score a goal on his own, but he's one step short. Just then, out of nowhere, Isagi appears ahead of him in open space. Looking back at Barou and damn near peering into his very soul, he orders Barou, "Pass to me." The conviction with which he said it was so great that Barou didn't even stop to think about what he was doing. He immediately passed to Isagi, who scores. After scoring, Isagi turns around to a broken Barou and tells him, "That was a nice pass, loser. Just support my goals." This is yet again Isagi using Barou's words against him. In addition to his phrasing about calling Isagi a loser, Barou always talks about "move so I can score" or "just support my goals," depending on your translation. Isagi here is showing Barou the ultimate disrespect by using those same words against him. After Barou scores the winning goal, Isagi and his teammates have a choice to make. Who will they choose to join them? While the other two have their own ideas, Isagi stops them and insists that they need to get an asset who will devour them. The team picks Shigiri, and Ryo and Nagi break up. But as Nagi turns his back on Ryo, Isagi looks down to Ryo and tells him, "You shouldn't aim to be the one that gets chosen, but the one that chooses. What are you even playing soccer for? Only people who will become the best strikers in the world can survive in Blue Lock." It's an epic panel showcasing Isagi and the others just looking back at Ryo, who's lifted up by Kunigami in order to not lose everything right there. Just badass. Okay, moving on. We have Make Us Win, Shitty Four Eyes. During the Blue Lock vs Under 20 Japan arc, we saw our heroes get pushed into a dire corner. Itoshi Sai was controlling the field, Shida Ryusei was the first to enter flow, and the entirety of the Japanese footballing world were passionately rooting for the Japan squad to win. Blue Lock was seen by all to be mere side characters for the real heroes to be the main players. But with the stakes as high as they were, none of the Blue Lock 11 were even remotely interested in giving up. On the contrary, they wanted to win. That's when Isagi, speaking to his coach, demanded him to show them a path to victory. Blue Lock's already won? Who the hell cares about that? What I want, what we want, is to win this game. The future doesn't matter. Losing here is the same as dying, and we're not gonna accept death just yet. I only care about being the best in the world, so make us win, you shitty Four Eyes. This ego is what you taught me. This was exactly the kind of response Ego was looking for, and he was very pleased that Isagi responded in kind. A very underrated moment in the ever-growing book of Slursagi. Another moment that occurred in the Under 20 arc is after the match. After Isagi won by scoring the winning goal, he's approached for a post-match press conference where he's asked what the next goal is. Standing in front of the camera, looking onto the entire Japanese footballing world, he tells them, "The World Cup. Blue Lock will win the Under 20 World Cup." And then he pauses for a second and says, "Actually, no, that's not right. I will lead Blue Lock to victory at the Under 20 World Cup." And the entire nation is in an uproar. That is my Slursagi. I know he's not insulting anyone there, but it holds the value, the intangible value of Slursagi. You can see that in that moment. In fact, shortly afterwards, in the changing room, Rin is obviously super mad at Isagi for stealing the spotlight, and he tells him, "From this day on, you are my rival. Make no mistake, Isagi, one day I'm definitely gonna kill you." And look, Rin's gonna Rin, we know how it goes. But Isagi, in response, just looks him dead in the eye and says, "Yeah, you can try." That's my goat right there, dude. Slursagi for the win. Amazing stuff. So from there we jump into the Neo Egoist League. Isagi joins Germany's Bayern Munich, and he and the others are immediately tasked with running an obstacle course. When they get to the end, Isagi has to shoot the ball towards a target, but he's impeded by Michael Kaiser, who grabs his forearm and tells Isagi to give him a reason not to feel like coming to the Neo Egoist League was a waste of time. "I want you to get in the way of my life, Yoichi." Isagi responds by grabbing Kaiser and says, "Like you asked, I'm gonna destroy your life." They converse a little more, and Kaiser remarks that until he takes his place as the world's best striker, Blue Lock will be the circus animals that provide some entertainment. And that in turn makes Isagi a pathetic clown who thought he was the star. Kaiser's trying to challenge Isagi for the best shit talker in Blue Lock. Spoiler alert. Isagi shows him who the real trash talker is. But we'll get there. After the events of the match against Barcelona, Isagi decides to assist Kunigami since he cannot score himself. In the wake of those events, Kaiser approaches Isagi and tells him that he's not a clown. "Let's give you a better part. If Orange, as in Kunigami, is the barbaric bandit leader who steals someone's achievement, then you're his subordinate." Isagi then responds, "In that case, I'll give you a role, Kaiser. How about the naked emperor who has everything stolen by me?" That excites Kaiser even more. And let it be known, I'm telling you right now, challenging Isagi Yoichi to a slur contest is never a good idea. For now though, Isagi hasn't quite gotten the better of Kaiser, but trust me, it's coming. In the next match against Manchester City, Isagi observes Kaiser's movements and comes to learn the ability he calls Metavision. After coming across these key components that can take him to the next level, Kaiser teases Isagi, thinking that he can't comprehend his playstyle, but Isagi says, "Thank you, Kaiser. All I can see now is the hope of crushing you." This would be the first time Kaiser is lightly surprised by Isagi's statements. Before this, he was honestly not that bothered by whatever Isagi said, but now things are starting to shift. Moving on, Isagi uses his Metavision to break through into a goal-scoring position, but right before he's about to shoot, Kaiser comes in to block his shot. Isagi forces the shot on goal through Kaiser's legs, but that slight hindrance causes Kunigami to be able to steal the goal away from Isagi. Knowing that Isagi is angry about this, Kaiser teases him yet again. "You shouldn't have shot, Yoichi. You should have just let me steal it like a good boy. Plus, you didn't have an angle to shoot between my legs." Pause, big pause. "You just kicked it to the middle of nowhere. You sure do love making assists, huh?" Isagi angrily answers back, "I'll crush you, Kaiser. I swear to God, I will end you." Some translations have Isagi literally threatening murder. So, make of that what you will, but this is one of the angriest you will ever see Isagi. He was absolutely livid, and for a good reason. The match continues, and a little later, after Yukimiya steals the ball off Isagi and tries to score on his own, before being stopped by Chris Prince, Isagi approaches Yukimiya with a deal. He wants them to team up so Isagi can score a goal and Yukimiya an assist. Yukimiya rejects this idea, and the conversation blows into a full-on argument between the two players. Yukimiya makes the mistake of insinuating that Isagi is the exact same kind of self-serving shithead as Kaiser. This pisses Isagi off for obvious reasons. The last thing he wants is to be anything like Michael Kaiser as a person. Yukimiya declares that if only shrewd bastards like you two get rewarded, then this world is too messed up. Isagi then bows his head for a second and says, "At a time like this, you're still having such childish thoughts? I, for one, don't want to live in the same world as masturbatory narcissists like you. Keep dreaming all alone while you drown in your sinking ship." Now, pause there for a second, because holy smokes, I don't want to live in the same world as a masturbatory narcissist like you? What? Isagi is essentially accusing Yukimiya of believing that he's better than he actually is. He's getting high off his own supposed story in his mind and not believing in reality. Keep dreaming all alone while you drown in your sinking ship is an amazingly loaded line. Isagi is essentially likening Yukimiya's career to a ship that he's the captain of, but instead of, quote, abandoning his ship to survive and fight another day, he'd rather keep dreaming all along as the ship, his career, sinks into the depths. Now that is Slursagi. In the climax of the match, Isagi is through on goal when yet again, Michael Kaiser shows up and tries to thwart Isagi's shot on goal, but this time, Isagi backheels the ball to a defeated Yukimiya who he had just verbally abused, and beckons Yukimiya to score. While Yukimiya takes the shot, Isagi grabs Kaiser by the shirt, and I want to point this out. Kaiser is 6'1", and Isagi is 5'9". Isagi grabs Kaiser's shirt and pulls him down so he can stare into his eyes, and he tells him, "How does it feel to be the clown of my story?" Now that is Slursagi fully activated. Kaiser for the first time has no snarky comeback, he doesn't have a sly worry look on his face. No, this time, Kaiser finally understands the mythical status of demon mode Slursagi. There's sweat on his face and Kaiser says, "You're crazy." And yes, he is. You stepped to the wrong Asian today, bro. We head into the final match of the Neo Egoist League between PSG and Bayern. A bunch of stuff happens in this match, but again, we're just focused on the Slursagi moment. I have a video on Isagi in the Neo Egoist League, you should check that out. But in any case, Isagi takes control of the entire Bayern team and Kaiser is left isolated. After he tries to score on his own, Isagi takes the opportunity to do some mental damage. Speaking to a beaten down Kaiser, Isagi tells him, "You get it now, right? This team isn't yours anymore. Kneel to me, you shitty clown." Isagi at this point is already up on Kaiser by at least 1 or 2 points, but he doesn't stop. Kaiser is the one who initially called him a clown, and Isagi is now using that to insult Kaiser at his worst moment. That's just what Slursagi does. The match proceeds and we venture into the climax sequence of the entirety of the Neo Egoist League. Isagi has just witnessed Rin overcome his own abilities, and he's met with the realization that he was used by Noah to accelerate Kaiser's growth. He's not meant to be the main player on this main stage. He's meant to fade into the background as a stepping stone for the real heroes. He comes to understand the deeper meanings of talented learners versus geniuses, and he, along with Kaiser, stopped Rin's shot. In the aftermath of that, Rin accuses Isagi of being happy about a blocked shot, telling him that his striker ego has rotted. Isagi retorts that, no, you're the tepid one, Rin. That wasn't some measly shot. The whole world wanted a super goal from you. They were waiting for the birth of a new hero in the Neo Egoist League, and I tore that away from you and crushed it. I bent history to my will. My logic surpassed your inspiration. I proved that a talented learner can defeat a genius. I've never felt such egotistic pleasure in my life. The star member change then ends. Loki and Noah are required to leave the field, but as Loki leaves, he starts talking about how he ended up playing for nothing. Really, he just deflects the responsibility of not being able to positively affect the outcome of the match. Isagi is not putting up with that stuff today. No, he isn't. Turning to Loki, he tells him, be a man and admit that you lost. You're awfully full of yourself for someone who just happened to be born fast. Now look, I'm not gonna lie. I was a little worried about my boy Isagi. He was 2 steps away from calling Loki a slur. I just know it. Now, this ticks off Loki, so Noah comes in to de-escalate, but Noah himself doesn't realize that he too is now in the crosshairs of one Isagi Yoichi. He grabs Noah's arm and tells him to shut up. You're just like him. You used me as a tool to get Kaiser to awaken. I don't trust you anymore. Squeezing his arm and pulling him closer, Isagi stares into the eyes of the current best player on the planet and declares, I'll bring a theory to surpass you, so just keep waiting at the top, Noah. The next World Cup is mine. Noah acknowledges Isagi and accepts that challenge. The entire world watching is losing their minds because Isagi just declared war on the best player in the world. But he doesn't stop there. He tops it all off by asking Michael Kaiser to team up with him. That is Slursagi in action, abandoning all pride and useless sentiment. Give up everything to win. So, Kaiser and Isagi team up and they start wreaking havoc all across the field. Shido Ryusei sees them working together and tries to do the same with Rin, but they fail miserably. As the two wallow in their failure, Kaiser and Isagi look down on them. Keep playing crazy soccer, you damned geniuses. You'll never outsmart us. Kaiser and Isagi cannot do the things Rin and Shido can, but in that same vein, they cannot do what Kaiser and Isagi can do, and Isagi just slammed them back to reality. The final example of Slur Sagi we've gotten so far in the story is quite the doozy. Isagi outsmarts everyone on the field for the final goal, believing in Ness while Kaiser did not, and he scores that goal. After scoring, he explains the anatomy of the goal to Michael Kaiser, who is enraged at his loss. Isagi reaches out his hand to help him up, and Kaiser's like, what are you doing? Isagi then says, our 1-goal contract is over, so thanks for that shit, my ultimate clown. If you thought Isagi forgot all about the crap Kaiser gave him before, you would be dead wrong, because in the very end, Slursagi, the Smoke Demon King, was never going to let Michael Kaiser get away with it. When they first met, Kaiser called Isagi a pathetic clown who thought he was the star. Isagi told him that Kaiser would be the king who had everything stolen from him. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. Kaiser is mad and smacks Isagi's hand away, but Isagi just turns around and pumps his fists. Another notch added to the "you've just been Slursagi'd" hit list. Unstoppable. But you know the funny thing? Here's the funny thing. When Isagi goes back to his family, You realize that bro is just terrorizing people with actual traumatic childhoods, while he himself is living with two loving parents. He's in a middle-class Japanese household with love, care, trust, and basic luxuries. You got dudes like Kaiser who are in the actual dumps, and yet on the field, Isagi just turns into the nastiest dude you've ever seen. His father even makes fun of him for it. It was so hilarious. His dad is over by the dinner table being like, thanks for that shit. It's absolutely hilarious. But I believe this is why Isagi can go out there and descend into the darker parts of his psychology. Having this place to return to, a place with no criticism, with unconditional love, and with the eternal love from both his mother and his father, it allows him to venture into the unknown, both in the world and within himself. It's a breath of fresh air, I won't lie to you. Isagi is Slursagi purely for the love of the game. If that's not epic, I don't know what is. If you made it this far, put the number 11 for Isagi's jersey number. Put 11 in the chat so I know you made it this far. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next Blue Lock video. This is your boy, signing out. Peace.